In this lecture segment, we are talking about one of Justinian's major projects, the construction of the Hagia Sophia in Constantinople. We will focus on the Hagia Sophia and how it brings together the basilica and central plans we saw established in Christian architecture in Rome. So we have left Ravenna and are in Constantinople, which was called Byzantine, and eventually this will lead to the Eastern Empire being called the Byzantine Empire. They did not think of themselves as the Byzantine Empire. They saw themselves as the surviving Roman Empire. Constantine did not just move the capital to Constantinople. He transformed the city from being a trading center to an imperial Christian city, commissioning churches and building a new city wall. We are talking about Constantinople at the time of Justinian, who we saw depicted at San Vitale and who extended the territory of the empire during his reign, as you see on this map. Remember that Justinian was trying to reclaim lost territory that once belonged to the Roman Empire. One of the best ways for him to connect himself to the glories of the Christian Roman Empire was by linking his projects to Constantine, who also tried to unite the empire, was a significant patron of Christian art and architecture, and legalized Christianity. Justinian's patronage often tries to draw parallels between him and Constantine as the first Christian Roman emperor. In this mosaic from the Hagia Sophia, we see Constantine holding a model of the city of Constantinople that he presents to the Virgin and Child in the middle. Justinian hands the Virgin a model of the Hagia Sophia. Each emperor gives the Virgin a representation of his patronage in Constantinople. The mosaic links the building projects of Justinian to those of the first Christian Roman emperor Constantine, as Justinian casts himself as a new Constantine, a Christian builder of the empire. The Hagia Sophia was built on the site of two earlier basilica-planned churches, right next door to Justinian's palace. The previous church was burnt to the ground during a period of revolt in 532, which Justinian violently put down. He commissioned a new church at this site as a statement of Christian imperial might. The church is dedicated to Christ as the embodiment of holy wisdom, or Hagia Sophia, though it was called the Great Church in the 6th century. Instead of hiring architects to do the designing, Justinian hired men who were academics. They were mathematicians. He hired them to create a structure to rival the Pantheon in Rome and be connected to the heritage of the Roman Empire, but also one to connect to the Christian Roman Empire, and especially the patronage of Constantine in Rome, for example, the Church of Old St. Peter's. As a reminder, here are our two established church plans. The basilica plan at the bottom with its longitudinal focus that pushes the viewer forward down the nave to the altar and apse end of the church. And we also have the central plan, which creates an elevating experience for the viewer through the creation of a domed space that acts as the vault of heaven. The Hagia Sophia's design merges the central plan with the basilica plan, creating a structure that has a focus both upward into the dome and forwards towards the altar and apse end, the most sacred part of the church and the focus of worship. We have a narthex, an introductory space that separated the baptized from the unbaptized. Initially, there was also a courtyard and fountain like we had at St. Peter's. Upon entering the structure, one moves into a massive domed space called a naos, flanked by two aisles with galleries above. Here you can see the gallery level. Instead of just having a single dome, the dome is flanked by two half-domes that lengthen the central space below, making it feel more like a rectangle of a basilica church. Both the Hagia Sophia and the Pantheon have huge domed spaces that were supposed to feel like heaven, giving the viewer a celestial experience using the materials and construction techniques available. Through architectural innovation and ingenuity, the designers were able to produce a massive dome that is about 100 feet in diameter and does not appear to be heavy. It appears weightless, defying gravity. Literature at this time talks about the dome in miraculous terms, saying that it looks as if a golden chain had been lowered from heaven, as the cushion of windows at the base of the dome appears to make the dome rest on a bed of light. Through careful design and decoration, the church presents itself as if the only way it could possibly stand was through the intervention of God, making the structure a physical embodiment of deity. While the Pantheon and the Hagia Sophia each have massive dome spaces, those domes are supported differently. At the Pantheon, a drum on a thick wall supports the coffered dome, as the structure clearly expresses the solidity of its foundations. By contrast, at the Hagia Sophia, the dome's supports are hidden to magnify the miraculous impression of the structure. 4 massive piers marked in red on this slide support the dome, which sits on 4 pendentives that link the dome's supports to the circular bottom of the dome. The massive piers that support the pendentives are hidden behind marble revetment. Here you look directly at one of those piers, but through patterning and material, its supportive function is de-emphasized. Even looking at the capitals of the columns used at the Hagia Sophia show that dematerialization of the supportive structures at the church. We see in this capital hints of classicism, with a scroll that looks like the volute of an Ionic column, but it does not provide an impression of solidity and support, but instead lightness. It almost looks like it is made out of lace, and yet surprisingly can support the structure's huge dome. The designers employed a range of decorative tactics that obscure the structural aspects of this building so that it has a miraculous character. The feeling when someone enters the structure is one of uplift and ascension, as if the viewer is being transported to heaven. The space gets increasingly light and bright as one approaches the top, and light communicates the presence of deity. It feels as if the dome has been suspended from heaven, and as light flows through the windows at the base of the dome, we almost feel as if the dome itself is floating. The space initially was filled with mosaic decoration of organic forms and patterning, with no human figures in its first phase of decoration, with a consistent use of gold in the decorative program, which made the mysterious, miraculous space filled with the presence of the divine in the form of light. It's important to also think about how this space was used. Worshippers stood in the galleries or in the aisles, but not in the naos. A huge screen made of silver obscured the most sacred part of the church from the view of the attendees. Only the emperor was allowed to join the clergy in the sanctuary during the service. Clergy used the naos space for ritual processions, transforming the church into a performative space. On special days during the year, both the emperor and the patriarch, the head of the church in the Byzantine Empire, who was chosen by the emperor, attended the service at the same time, which made the whole space expressive of imperial power in the hands of the emperor, who had both secular and sacred authority. At the Hagia Sophia, we see a massive physical expression of Justinian's role as the Christian Roman emperor, using patronage to connect his rule to the Roman Empire of before. The Hagia Sophia is a massively influential structure and establishes a pattern for building religious structures.